What's going on, everyone? It is the Derf, and my Banner Titan is back and ready for more. Act 3 is live, which means we've got a whole slew of artifact perks that we can now pair with our Banner Titan. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it a Stronghold Banner Titan on top of using Barrow Dyad. This lethal combination makes you an absolute powerhouse. Be the ultimate support for your teammates, all while dealing out huge chunks of damage, and your favorite green buddies roaming around the battlefield all over the screen as you just wreak havoc on whoever is in front of you. So if you've been looking for an updated Banner Titan for Act 3 in Heresy, look no further than here. If you know a guardian in need who could use a build like this, please share this video with them, like and subscribe if anything here resonates with you. All right, let's get into it. Banner Titan setup, of course, the Berserker Titan subclass. Blade Fury is going to be our only super of choice here, but you are going to get this thing back insanely quickly because it is a roaming super. So the way that I like to play this to get the most out of it is I unleash the heavy upward slash first, and then I use my lighter attack, if you can even call it that, to mow the enemies down that are suspended until my heavy upward slash is available again. For abilities, we're going to go with the Rally Barricade and the Strafe Lift. Frenzied Blade, of course, everybody's favorite. And for this particular build, we are changing up. We're going to go with the Threadling Grenade. The last Banner Titan that I went through, we went with the Grapple simply because I mentioned how much I love grappling. And that has not changed, but we're going to pair this with the Artifact, and this is going to absolutely bolster our additional tick damage. For our aspects, of course, you can't have a Banner of Titan without having the Banner of War aspect. Defeat a target with a melee attack, finisher, or sword to raise a Banner of War that pulses with energy, periodically healing nearby allies and granting increasing melee and sword damage. Targets defeated by you and nearby allies charge the banner, increasing the speed of its pulses. So, because we're going to be running Stronghold along with a sword, this Banner of War, theoretically, in a busier activity, is going to be pulsing like crazy, which means our melee is going to be constantly regenerated. And since we have 3 stacks of it, there's a couple of different ways we can use it, but I'm going to go over the way that I like to use it personally myself. That's going to tie into this aspect, Dranger's Lash. Activate your barricade ability to create a ripple in reality that travels forward along the ground, suspending and damaging the targets it hits. If you have never played around with Dranger's Lash, it is incredibly simple to use. Activate your barricade in front of enemies and watch them just get suspended in the air and mow them down. This is going to pair insanely well with Barrow Dyad's ability to just unleash a bullet storm from hell against these, enemies that we're going to be going up against. Particularly useful with champs, of course, but any enemies in general that are suspended, remember, suspended targets unwind into a tangle when defeated. Of course, there is a tangle cooldown, but this is still going to play into the artifact. Now, this is one of the few videos where I'm going to tell you that if you want to change up an aspect, you can change it up and use it in an increasingly strong way that compares to what I've got on the screen. If you didn't want to use your barricade, let's just say, because we are a Stronghold Titan, that we are our own barricade of sorts, so to speak, and you're not worried about anything. You can switch out Dranger's Lash for Fletched Storm. While sliding, activate your charge melee ability to leap into the air, knocking nearby targets away and dealing damage. While airborne, activate your charge melee again to launch a cluster of damaging unraveling projectiles. Repeatedly activating melee will chain additional throws. So, unraveling a target will unwind into a tangle as well. So if you didn't want to use your barricade on this for anything other than just blocking damage, you're not going to throw it down, hunker down behind it, and fire with your Barrow Dyad, which I think is still going to be the play that you prefer to do anyways with this build, just like any other Titan build. You can take advantage of the 3 stack of melee energies from your Frenzied Blade and use Fletched Storm instead, which allows you to fire your melee at enemies while airborne. Think of it like an airborne version of the Strand Warlock melee ability, Arcane Needle, and you can still be at a distance while theoretically having your barricade as that extra buffer without having to get up close and personal by using the melee on top of enemies, thereby risking yourself for additional damage while you are surrounded. So this is another option that you can use. Try out both and see which one you like more. For fragments, Thread of Warding, number 1 on the list. I want my Woven Mail, and I'm going to be generating Orbs of Power. Thread of Transmutation is number 2. While you have Woven Mail, Final Weapon Blows create a Tangle. Plus 10 to Strength. Make sure that, you're spawning tons of Tangles, which means you get additional tick damage, as we're going to see in the artifact coming up. Thread of Rebirth, Strand Weapon Final Blows have a chance to create a threadling. Pairing this with Barrow Dyad with the Hatchling perk is going to make this fragment even more ridiculous than it already is. And last but not least, Thread of Generation, dealing damage generates grenade energy. Because we are going to be dealing an insane amount of damage, I wouldn't even worry about the -10 to discipline, but if you are, it might be a good time to go farm some armor from Failsafe over in the Helm. Speaking of armor, for armor stats, you're going to want to focus resilience at a 10, discipline around a 6 or a 7, and strength around a 6 or a 7. Ideally higher if you can. Probably your least important stat in this is going to be intellect, and probably secondary would be recovery, but I probably wouldn't dip below a T4 in recovery if you can help it, since you're not going to be getting things that you can get on the Prismatic Titan or Arc or even the Void Titan to bump your health back. So just be aware of this when you're using this. But if I were to pick 2 stats to focus into the heaviest, it would probably be resilience and then discipline. The reason for that is we're going to be chucking our Threadling Grenade as often as we get it. We don't care where it lands, as long as it's in the vicinity of enemies around us and or in the direction that we are currently running, which is also why if you wanted to put on the other aspect, it might be beneficial if you have higher stats than even I do in discipline and melee, because you could theoretically use all of that from a distance and still use your Barrow Dyad to deal an insane amount of tick damage on top of it. So just something to think about. It gives you a little bit more customization in an otherwise kind of narrow-minded strand subclass as it is. For weapons, Barrow Dyad. Make sure if you haven't yet, you go select the Taken Ambition. Blight generated increases the longer this weapon remains on a target. Blighted Seekers burrow into targets and explode. And of course, complete the Hatchling refit, making this weapon absolutely bonkers. You cannot put on Taken Ambition unless you have Panic Response 5 achieved on this weapon. Once you do that, it doesn't matter if you select that orb one way or the other in Eris's apartment. You can equip Taken Ambition without selecting Hardening or Embracing your ambition or whatever it's called. I forget the exact terminology in Eris's apartment. You get either option in the Enclave when you craft this weapon. For the energy weapon, my main focus is probably going to be Barrier Champs, although what I did was I broke it down into whether you want to spec into Arc or Void. So for Arc weapons, I highly recommend putting on Indebted Kindness or Iterative Loop, depending on the champions that you are going to be coming across. If you prefer to spec into Void for your energy weapon, then it's got to be Lotus Eater or the Afterlight. Afterlight is definitely powerful with Reservoir Burst, and make sure you put on Power of Ambition as well, because if you did not know, Power of Ambition gives you the ability to stun Overload champs. You're already going to be able to do that with our sword, which I'll explain in a minute, but this is another way to be able to deal with Overload champs if the sword for some reason is not working, but I have yet to run into that issue, thankfully. So I don't think you really have to worry about that. You could also equip a sniper rifle of your choice if you want to be able to deal with barriers that way. And as far as, the rest of the champs, we should have them covered with our other weapons. Abyssal Edge. If you saw my first Banner Titan video, I don't think I had both of these enhanced. I, of course, had them enhanced now and have been really, really, really enjoying this weapon, this build on Titan. Make sure you level up the shaping slab so you can equip Power of Ambition onto this. Even though flash counter right here is going to be your number one thing that you're going to be searching for on this weapon, because of the ability to disorient enemies around you, you also want to be able to put on Power of Ambition, which only happens once you level up the shaping slab, so make sure that you do that. These two things combined with Surrounded is going to make this weapon absolutely ridiculous. Yes, you could put up on the backup mag, but I mean, really, 4 more rounds, that's 1 heavy attack, or 2 light attacks, so it's not really worth it. Just take the -4 to the ammo you could get and instead be able to stun champs, so it's one less thing you got to worry about when you're going through different activities. For the helmet, go ahead and put on whatever general armor mod you need. Of course, I recommend a heavy ammo finder, and in this particular instance, I am recommending putting on a harmonic siphon ×2. The reason I'm recommending putting on a harmonic siphon is you don't really need to put on a dynamo, ashes to assets, hands-on, or anything like that for this build. You already have a roaming super, so the amount of damage you're going to be generating with Barrow Dyad combined with your Abyssal Edge is going to be ridiculous enough that you're never going to be hurting for your super to get back to you faster. I guess theoretically you could put on a special ammo finder if you're really worried about loading up your energy weapon, but honestly, I don't think you're really going to have an issue. Put on the double harmonic siphon, get your other abilities back even faster every time you pick up an orb of power, and keep moving on. Stronghold Gauntlets. Clenched Fists. Maximize guard stats on equipped swords. You take reduced damage when blocking with the sword. Rapidly damaging targets after blocking shots with a sword grants restoration for a duration determined by the number of shots blocked. So, if you have not picked up Stronghold recently or you don't understand how it works, I will summarize it real quick. Basically, while you are guarding with your Abyssal Edge, you are going to see a increasing stat count on the left-hand side of your screen. At a time determined by you, when you are done guarding and you unleash that heavy attack and you generate that wave forward, it's going to not only grant you restoration, so it's going to protect you from receiving incoming damage, because chances are you are going to be surrounded, or at least in the face of a boss potentially or champ. And on top of that, it's going to increase the damage dealt as you rapidly damage targets. And how you are rapidly damaging targets isn't by using the light attack, it's by putting the wave out there and having it just go along the ground and generate an obscene amount of damage. And if you have an Orb of Power recently picked up, yes, you guessed it, you will have the unraveling rounds procced from this as well. While you are guarding and reflecting damage, though, that also applies along with the ability to potentially spawn threadlings. So a lot of great things that you can use this for in a Banner Titan setup. Of course, use the whatever mods you deem necessary, although I would recommend trying to hold off on going above a 1 energy mod for here. Maximize that by putting on a Artifice mod, and then I recommend 1 heavy-handed, 1 firepower, and a strand loader. Yes, I'm aware, before anyone says in the comments, I can put on a harmonic loader and get the same thing, but the reason why I don't really care what it says either way, because I switch between elements with this, is because I'm not able to put on more than a 1 energy anyways, or a 2 energy, I should say, and that's not going to bump, at least for me, my stats into the next category. But if you do have to get +5 to a resilience or recovery to be where you want to be, or I guess intellect if it's really that lacking, you have that ability with the harmonic loader. I just don't need it, so there's really no point for me to even equip it. But I do want the increased reload speed, and since I switch between this and, arc and whatever else out there, prismatic, I just like to have this equipped in case my super is different than what I have, in my primary slot. For the chest armor, go ahead and put on whatever armor mod that you need. I had to spec into resilience a little bit more than I wanted to, because for whatever reason, I haven't had that great of RNG rolls from farming armor as of late. But go ahead and do what you got to do. 2 damage resistance mods, and of course a strand reserves mod, because you want as much ammo for your sword as possible. And yes, I am fully aware of how crazy it sounds saying ammo for your sword. For your legs, go ahead and spec into whatever general mod that you need. Recuperation 1000% needs to be your first perk or your first mod that you put on here. The reason for that is you do not have a way to generate health back with a strand subclass. So having recuperation on here, heck, maybe even having it on here twice might be the play to go. However, I recommend putting on innervation because we are using the threadling grenade, which does take longer to spawn, and of course absolution to round you out. Get equal amounts of ability energy back. I think it's somewhere around like 7% per orb pickup. That's pretty significant. So go ahead and put that on and enjoy the show. For our Titan mark, go ahead and spec into whatever general armor mod that you need. Hopefully you have an artifice piece in this slot. Of course, if you were playing Guardian games, you know that our Guardian class item was an artifice armor piece. If you didn't know that and you missed out for one or multiple classes, well, that's a bummer. You're going to have to go farm a master dungeon encounter to maybe change that. But for right now, just put on whatever mods that you need. I recommend either Outreach or Bomber. Bomber's probably the play here since we are using the threadling grenade and we can stack our melee 3 times. Of course, I always recommend to put on Reaper because at least with how I have the class set up right now, I'm going to be using my barricade regularly. However, if you choose to swap that out for the other aspect that I was telling you guys about, you could probably drop Reaper, as crazy as that sounds, and put on something else. You could put on time dilation. You could put on, a distribution. Really, whatever you want in this slot is probably okay if you go with the other aspect that we were talking about. But it's completely up to you. Or just roll with what you see on the screen, see how it works for you, and then adjust as necessary. That's probably my best recommendation. For the artifact, I'm not going to go through all the new options. By now, hopefully, you've had a chance to peruse them and figure out which ones will apply to you for the classes and styles you like to play the most. But here in the first column, we're going to go with Unstoppable Fusion, Piercing Sidearms, and Anti-Barrier Sniper Rifle. The reason for this is, of course, we have the ability to deal with all the champs as long as we have barriers accounted for, which we will with these two right here. The Fusion Rifle is just because we swap in and out of Fusion Rifles with our energy slot. So rather than wasting your time coming back in here and reorganizing this thing, just keep it on. It's easier. In the second column, we're going with Unraveling Orbs and Vile Weave. These two are going to work in tandem together. Your Tangles are going to sever your targets. Of course, severed targets will play a role here in the other perks I'm going to go to, but Unraveling Orbs, picking up an orb of power of tangling or a tangle, grants strand weapons unraveling rounds. Strand weapons deal increased damage to strand debuff targets. So again, severed, increased damage to debuff targets. These two work together, and then that's going to pair with Horde Shuttle and 2 Shreds. Dealing sustained damage to severed targets unravels them. Defeating a severed target creates a hotspot of strand energy, granting woven mail to nearby allies for a short duration. The boost, unraveling projectiles deal increased damage. These deal further increased damage to severed targets. So that's going to pair beautifully with our Horde Shuttle, which is going to be damaging unraveled targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a threadling. Boost, your threadlings sever targets that they damage. So the ridiculous synergy between these 4 artifact mods almost negates the necessity for me to even continue talking about the artifact. But to say that Strand is not meta in this season, I mean, I don't know if there's 4 artifact perks that I can remember in recent history that made such sense. Bungie really did us a solid when people are asking, well, what about Strand? What's going to happen with Strand? This happened with Strand. You can do whatever you want now, and you can use Strand and you can benefit from it. As far as the rest of the perks go, we're going to spec into Arc simply because I want to be amplified as much as possible. Defeating Arc debuff targets grants Bolt Charge. That, of course, includes Volt Shot. When you gain multiple or maximum bolt charge, you also become amplified. Your lightning bolts deal more damage. So again, just pairing with dielectric. And then last but not least, defibrillating blast. Stunning a champion grants maximum stacks of bolt charge. Triggers an arc bolt that heals you and jolts combatants that it damages. So we're taking advantage of just a freebie. We have nothing on our person except for the energy weapon that has arc. But we're going to get stacks of bolt charge with this strand class regardless because, well, Bungie wanted to throw us a freebie here in the 5th column, and it's too tempting to pass up, at least with this build. Last but not least, Elemental Siphon. Rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super creates an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. So with our Arc Titan, that was an Ionic Trace. With our Banner Titan, that's going to be a Tangle. And of course, we already know what's going to happen once we use those Tangles. So tick damage on top of tick damage on top of tick damage makes your Banner Titan, in not only like unstoppable, just in and of itself being a Stronghold Titan, but it's going to do ridiculous tick damage in sweaty environments. And when all those enemies are gone and those unraveling projectiles have no other enemy to go to but the boss you guys are all focusing your fire on, that's only going to boost your DPS numbers. And I don't know a single Guardian out there who doesn't wish that they could do a few more 100,000 worth of DPS on virtually every boss they come across where it's recorded. I know I like to see my numbers as high as possible, and I know you probably do as well. And then, of course, Gold from Lead. Picking up special ammo has a chance to grant heavy ammo. This one is a no-brainer. We're going to be cycling through our weapons relatively frequently. So having the ability to pick up special ammo and possibly get heavy ammo, it's a win-win for everyone because, well, why wouldn't it be a win-win? Just put it on. It'll be fine. I guess if you don't want Gold from Ledge, you could always put on Dreadful Finisher if you use your finisher all the time, which honestly on Titan, I tend to, for whatever reason, I think it's a mental thing, using finisher more than on like a Warlock or a Hunter. Maybe it's just the bonk Titan mentality that I have when I equip my Titan. But Dreadful Finisher would also work here, getting special ammo if you want special ammo, but it won't give you the chance for the heavy ammo, so just take the chance. 50% of a chance is better than 0% of no chance. You know what I mean? So go ahead and put the heavy ammo or the Gold from Lead on and enjoy the randomized increase in your ammo economy for your sword. So that is the build. Banner Titan, of course, a staple in any Strand lover's arsenal. Really, Strand this season has come into its own. I don't want to say that any of us saw this coming, but Strand was due. You know what I mean? Like, we had Stasis, we had Void, we had Arc, we had, not that we don't right now, but we had Solar. We've had seasons in recent memory that really accented other elements very well. So the fact that Banner Titan was so loved so long ago, it is even still loved today, especially by, folks like me who like getting in the face of, the enemies and taking the heat off of my teammates. That's a big thing. Stronghold Titans are typically known for their support role. They're not really known for their ability to put out damage. Well, this season, people are going to enjoy both because the tick damage you can do with Barrow Dyad, plus the tick damage you can do with blocking and reflecting damage that's going to disorient your enemies with your Abyssal Edge. Combine that with your banner, getting like a ridiculous amount of melee back, and the fact that you are almost unkillable with your Woven Mail on top of your banner pulsing. I don't know. I think that's probably the strongest combination you can come up with. Now, of course, with it being Strand, you don't have a way to regenerate your health, which is why it's imperative you have your armor modded correctly, like I went over with you. But overall, this, on a surge activity, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a Titan, maybe not necessarily the Consecration spam is still popular, but these Strand Banner Titans, they hold up on their own. easily without much effort. And if you had never messed around with a Banner Titan, just go start messing around with the Banner Titan. Just take it into a strike, take it onto a planet, take it through Dares of Eternity, do something that's chill where you can get used to the playstyle. And I mean, it's gonna grow on you. It grew on me. You know, I was resistant to really speccing into Titan long time ago, but now that I'm familiar with all these different play styles, and I've got, you know, of course, you guys, you know, my members, my Discord, my followers that give me suggestions, it's hard to put Titan down. As much as I love my Warlock, it's hard to put Titan down. It just is. So anyways, I'm going to switch over to, you know, a couple more highlight things, just showcasing kind of how powerful this thing really is. But listen, guys, if you guys did find anything helpful with this video, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. If you know a Guardian out there who could use a great Banner Titan setup and hasn't really gone through the steps to get in their Banner Titan, please feel free to share this video with them or send them my way. My goal is to help as many people as possible. As always, I'll have a dim link in the description, as well as a link to my Discord. I do have a community kind of brewing on my Discord, so if you guys have been looking for a non-toxic community, it's slowly growing, slowly but surely, and we've got some really great people in there. So shout out to my guys on my Discord, you know, for being so cool and, you know, helping me come up with different ideas for helping them, I should say, enjoy the game more. So, all right, I'm going to switch over to some highlights. I'm going to talk you through some of what you see on the screen. All right, guys, here we go. All right, so here we go. As you can see, I'm doing my best to be a support in this run. It's not always easy to be walking around with patience and just holding the guard button, but I mean, you can see I'm not doing any shortage of additional tick damage on top of what my allies are already doing. So part of being a Stronghold Titan is the ability to embrace the patience, as well as knowing that patience will also net you an insane amount of damage. You see the tick damage that's going on, and now when you get your opportunity, you whip out your Barrow Dyad and do some additional, you know, major damage. In this one, here we go again. We got multiple, you know, heavy combatants in front of us, and melee is one of the things that people can't really guard against if they are outnumbered. If you're outnumbered and you can't, you know, mow the masses down, you got to be ready to spring at a moment's notice, and that's where Stronghold Titan is best, because you can guard, reflect damage while taking, you know, attention off of your allies. And in that way, you support your allies doing what they do best, which is, you know, trying to do as much damage as possible. And then when you get your chance, bust out your super and unload on the boss. So anyways, guys, thank you guys for all your support. Hopefully you guys found something helpful in this video. I'll have a dim link and my Discord in the description. I will see you guys next time. Thanks as always. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care now. I'll see you next time.